Hey everyone, welcome to EverydayFI, where we explore the lives of everyday people pursuing financial independence. I'm your host, Meghan Combs, and I'm here to say that you do not need $1 million book deal or a famous blog to reach FI early. By talking with real humans, I'll show you how to forge your own path to financial freedom the everyday way. Today is part 2 with Jillian Johnsrud, so we get to hear the rest of her story. And I made this note last week, but just so you know, my AirPods were the ones that caught my audio, so not my professional mic. As you can hear, my voice sounds a lot better on this mic. So I apologize for that, but thank you so much for continuing to listen. And we're going to hear from our sponsors, but then we're going to get to part 2 of Jillian's episode. I would love to know, how you think your upbringing, and not necessarily around money, just your upbringing in general, kind
Mm,
of shaped your philosophies about money as an adult.
mhm.
We've been kind of swirling around this topic, but I'd love to hear it from you, in your own words, how you think this has shaped you.
Yeah, I had kind of a seminal moment. It was maybe 12, 13, like 7th grade. My mom was married to my stepdad, and it was not awesome. I went to her and I was just like, there again, being the hypervigilant, I'm going to take care of everything. I was like, yeah, we can't do this. It's not good. It's not healthy. We shouldn't be here. Like, I don't care where we go. I don't care what we do. I'll figure it out. Here's this apartment. Here's how much the rent would be. I can get a job. We can make it work, but we can't stay here. And my mom's super pragmatic. And she just looked at me and she was like, Jill, I can't raise 3 kids on my own. Like, end of story. Done. And I went upstairs because I'm an optimist. I can figure this out kind of person. And I just cried hot tears in my bed because it was just devastating to feel so stuck in a place that didn't feel good, that didn't feel safe. But I had this epiphany of like, oh, money gives you options. Money gives you choices. Money's the only reason we don't have options and choices right now. And I desperately wanted more options and choices in that moment and forevermore. I was like, yeah, I'm never going to be in this spot again. I don't care what I got to do. I don't care what it takes. I will have more options and I will have more choices than I have in this moment. And I'd started on that path of like, conscientious, hypervigilant person. Like all throughout high school, I worked 20, 30, 40 hours a week. I did varsity basketball. I did the school play. I did speech and drama. I did the honor roll. By my senior year, I only had like 2 classes left that I needed to take. So I moved out and worked full time. And in our school, if you were on the honor roll, you could check out for study hall. So I would show up at I commuted like 30 miles to school. I would show up at like 10 a.m., do my 2 classes and sign out, and then drive back to my house and go to work. And I worked full time as a waitress. Yeah, that was like the beacon for me. I want more choices. I want more freedom. Like, I don't want to feel stuck like this. I want to have more agency in my life. There were a lot of points in my life where I'm an optimist. I was a very small optimist. I didn't have grand dreams. I didn't have huge dreams, but I had like this sample size version of dreams, which felt tremendously scary to even dream the sample size version. But I did consistently take actions to move towards that sample size version. I remember the first time I had $10,000. It was back in the day when we went to banks. And so I went to deposit a check in person inside with a teller. And what they would do is they would print out your receipt after your deposit and they would circle the amount. And it was like 10,000, like 100. And she circled it and her eyes got wide and she slid it back. And I almost started crying because I thought, this is a life changing amount of money. I couldn't have ever imagined having that much money. And the amount of freedom and the amount of safety and security and excitement that amount of money created for me at that moment in my life was really significant. And it was incredibly motivating. And I think on the FI journey, we can get so stuck on what's that end number? But maybe if you've been worried about your water bill, that first $10,000 is like, I couldn't even imagine. There were very few moments growing up where we ever had a full tank of gas. So we were farming ranching community. Some of the farmers have their own like gas pump at their house because they have to fill up their combines and trucks and everything. You can't drive into town to like put gas in a combine. So you have your own gas pump. And I was cleaning my friend's house. And so his mom said, hey, why don't you let her go fill up her vehicle with gas before she goes home? And I had a full tank of gas. And I got home and I was like, oh my God, Mom, come look at this. Come outside. Come outside. Look, it's like, it's all the way to the F. I don't know if I had ever seen that before. And it was like such a freaking magical moment.
Yeah, and I think it's super important to revisit those moments when you're where you are now, or even as you're on the FI path, because that FI number can seem so large and seem so out of reach. But then if you look back at like where you used to be, and it's like, okay, think about myself 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and how would that person think about what you have today? And that I do that. I think about 25-year-old Megan gallivanting in New York City on $20,000 a year, living in an apartment by myself because I refused to get roommates. I'm such a diva. Anyway, and I just think like I could not imagine having $5,000.
Yeah.
A couple $100 here or there from my waitressing gigs was like everything to me, and it just felt like so much money. And now my liquid net worth is in the 400s, and like I don't think 25-year-old Megan, she would have been like, so much money.
Yeah.
And 38-year-old Megan is like, this isn't enough because I can't quit my job. So like, I think it's very important to remind ourselves of our 25-year-old selves and like what they would think about where we are now. If you guys are anywhere, you guys listening anywhere near our ages. So not going to work if you're 25 now and you're like, well, wait a second, what about me? So think about when you were 15. So yeah, absolutely. So I guess that leads me to how you found the financial independence movement specifically. Like, obviously, you had this idea, this epiphany that money gives you choices and you wanted more agency. But what led you to financial independence, retire early, like this specific way of thinking about money? Was it a certain person, a blog, an influencer, or just, yeah, I'd love to hear that story.
Yeah, I hadn't heard about FI or FIRE until I was very near there. I think I was maybe 3 years out from FI when I first heard that this was a concept. And I remember going to my spouse at the time and I was like, oh my gosh, people are doing this. This is like a thing. This is the thing people do. And I think we're actually really close. I think we've almost done that thing.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
And you were in your like late 20s,
Yeah.
right? Because you reached FI at 32. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, and there's so many things I love about the FIRE community, but I think for my personality, I'm really thankful that I didn't know about it sooner because I was doing all the good things. Like I was reading the investment books and we were putting money in our Roth IRAs and we had an emergency fund and we were buying rentals and real estate and we were trying to do all the things. We were living really frugally. So I had kind of all of the good things that I think the FIRE movement brings. But because I didn't know about it, I didn't have any of kind of the downsides of like, there's this one specific goalpost that maybe you should push really hard towards. And I'm thankful that I didn't have that mindset just with my personality. Like, if there's a prize, if there's a goal, if there's a target, I can become really hyper fixated on that. There were so many amazing things I did throughout my 20s. Like we lived in Europe. I traveled all over Europe. I took like Scottish poetry classes in Scotland and I did expat literature like when I was in Italy, and I did mini retirements and good ones and a disastrous one. Like I did so many cool things that I think if I would have had that mindset, especially like early FI kind of jargon of like, well, if you spend the, $1,500 to do this thing, like that could compound and then you would have that much less. I'm glad that that wasn't in my head because I think I was already kind of over optimized. Now looking back, there's no way I would trade any of those experiences, any of those memories for a couple extra dollars because a lot of those things I did in my 20s, I'm just not doing again. Like, I leaned in hard to every season. I remember being in Europe, and this was way, way back in the day when like couch surfing was kind of a new thing. And I was like, yeah, this is awesome. And so me and my girlfriend, we were like 25. We're like, let's go to Austria. This will be a fun trip. And we just stayed with like random strangers on the internet, slept on their couches. But it was so fun and it was
Yeah.
so interesting. And I met such cool people. And I'm so glad I did it. And like, no way am I doing it now. Like, I'm not finding a strange man on the internet and sleeping on his couch. It's just
What's the website too, like couchsurfers.com or something like that? Because I remember there was definitely like a couchsurfers.com or something like
oh
that where you could
yeah.
find
It
people.
was
And
a huge community.
I remember looking at it. Yeah, and I looked at it for going to Ireland, but I only looked for women. I was like, "There's no way." But then you have to trust that they say they're women, but are they women? Yeah. Anyway, yes, we took risks in our 20s.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
and they
love that.
were amazing. Like I had so many good experiences. I slept on the frozen ground. I almost got trampled by bison once. Like so many fun things that I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. Like I require a mattress. And so I'm glad to some degree that I wasn't like encouraged to optimize even more and miss out on those things that, to be honest, that season of life is just, it's passed me by. I'm not doing that again.
Yeah, and that was a theme that I saw in your book about there are certain like time periods or chapters of your life that are great for mini retirements because if you're just going to wait until you're 65 to do anything, then there are things that you would want to do maybe in your 20s, 30s, 40s that you're not going to be able to do in your 60s. It's just not physically possible, right? Like I know, for example, my husband is a huge rock climber and backpacker. And while I think he will still be quite fit in his 60s, there are just certain things like the level of outdoorsiness that he wants to get to that would not be possible in his 60s. So for example, he wants to climb, there's like a route in Colorado where you can climb 2 or 3 14ers all in one day,
Mm,
which I'm like, geez, in one day, what? But yeah, he wants to attempt it. And he knows that his window is shrinking
yeah.
on doing that because he's 35. And so he's
Mhm.
like, I need to probably do that before I'm 40 because I worry that I'm not going to have the fitness level to do that. And now I'm like, I don't know. I think you could probably get there in your 40s, but in your 60s, it might be a little harder because you're starting to lose muscle mass. And like, it just is, it's biology, right? And so yeah, I loved that about your book and that there are chapters in your life that these mini retirements could really help fill in some of the experiences that you don't get to have because you work 9 to 5, 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week,
Yeah.
60 hours a week, 80 hours a week, sometimes if you're, say, a doctor. So, yeah, I love that.
And I think we take for granted not just how much our capability changes, but how much our preferences change. The things that like sounded really fun and awesome and were really fun and awesome might not always be fun and awesome. Like me and a friend, we went to London for a couple days. Again, I was in my 20s and we were staying at a youth hostel. And even for my 20s, this mattress was absolutely horrifying and so uncomfortable. And so we were like, you know what's an amazing idea? We had a super early flight. I think we were supposed to fly out at like 5, which meant we had to be there at 3 in the morning, which meant we had to like leave at 2 in the morning. And I was like, you know what? I think,
Why even go to bed?
yeah, this was 20-year-old stuff. I was like, we could save the $36 on this crappy youth hostel bed. And let's get the light show tickets to Phantom of the Opera because it won't get out until midnight. And then we just have a little bit of time to kill before we have to go to the airport. And so we leave Phantom of the Opera and we're wandering the streets of London at night. And we go by this little teeny tiny drag bar, and they're having this drag performance, and it's amazing. Like, Dolly Parton's up there, Whitney Houston, like they're belting out the tunes. It's so good. And so we grab a drink, and it finishes at 2. And as we're like going out onto the street, there's this guy who had been, there was this one little tiny window into the bar, and he had been standing and looking in the window of the bar. And we come out, and he's like shell shocked. He looks like, I don't know if he looks terrified or amazed. And he was a Middle Eastern guy, and he starts like trying to talk to us, but he can't even like form the words because he's so confused. And he goes, I just never, I've never seen, I didn't know, I'm from Saudi Arabia. I've just never seen so much freedom. And it's 2 a.m. and maybe I've had a drink or two, but like I almost want to start crying. It was like the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And we went, to the airport, we got on the plane, we flew home, and it was such a great trip. And I'm so happy we did that. And I'm just, like, I think about that guy and that expression and that appreciation of like the freedom, like the beauty of freedom. And I'm never doing that again. I really need sleep now. Like, I'm 42. I need a mattress and I need a couple hours of sleep. I'm not there. I will never be like, we should just not go to sleep because it'll save us $36. That's it's never come out of my mouth again.
Well, sleep is totally worth $36. However, they do have drag shows that aren't at midnight, so you can always go to a drag show any time of the day. Drag shows are forever. I love drag shows. We were walking downtown Durham one time. It was like Christmas. It was, I think, the first Christmas we had started dating. And Chris and I were just walking around, just seeing, like, I didn't know Durham very well back then because I lived in Raleigh. And he and I went to the like center of downtown where the Durham Bowl is. Like, there's literally a bowl. Mm-hmm. And there was a stage and there was a drag show. It was a Christmas drag show. And I was like, let's watch this. And then this rap star came on that I knew, and I knew he was from Durham. He's like a Japanese American who his parents have a Japanese restaurant here in Durham. And he's, I wouldn't say famous, but he's relatively famous. And he starts performing, and I was like, oh my God. And we just walked up on it. And it was so much fun. And it was like, it was so serendipitous. Like, it was just great. Anyway, so drag shows are for life. For sure. Every single part of your life. So, okay. Well, so again, I'm reading your book, and you know what? Let's actually just tell everybody what your book is called. Okay, so the book title is Retire Often: How Anyone Can Take Multiple Career Breaks to Unlock Adventure, Advance Their Career, and Find Financial Freedom. So that's the book. It's coming out what day, Jillian?
September 9th. So it should be out by now.
Yeah, it should be out by the time this is launched, and you'll have to give me a link to where people can buy it. But anyway, I was reading it, and there was the moment where you realize that saving just a teeny bit more of your money could mean that you get to take a mini retirement for, I think, a year. It was like you were in the car with Adam and you were talking about taking a mini retirement. I don't remember the specifics, but I remember you being in the car and like thinking through this or something. And what came through my mind was, I was like, why do you want to take mini retirements? Because I know you were talking about, like, it seems so obvious. Like, why wouldn't you, right? But yeah. I'm curious why you specifically were so into the idea of taking mini retirements and not working, especially now that we've learned a little bit more about your upbringing and about what work means to you and your family and the generations before them too. So yeah, I'm really curious about that.
Yeah, I think it stemmed from that assumption that I would never be able to retire early. Like, that was an insane idea. And so if I could retire at all, that seemed questionable in and of itself. But there were things that I had, those like sample size dreams. I had those ideas in high school. There again, I think it was during that first job, I bought a travel book, like a Frommer's, like travel guide. Actually, I think one of the very first books that I ever purchased for myself. And for years, I would highlight it and I would read it and I would create itineraries through Europe and I would plan out all the places I would eat and like budget exactly how much it would cost. And I had been saving up money towards that goal. And then I didn't do that trip. And so that was one of those things of like, I would love to go to Europe. I would love to travel. You know, growing up, one, not having a lot of money, but also being in the middle of Montana, it's a long drive anywhere. To get out of the state is like 12 hours. And even when you get out of the state, there's not a whole bunch right across the border either. And so we didn't travel. I didn't get on airplanes. We didn't go places. And honestly, most of the people I was around, it was farmers and ranchers. They didn't really travel either. I think I remember like two kids maybe did a trip to Hawaii once, and we were like, what? What is this craziness? Palm trees, ocean. So I was fascinated by the idea of these other parts of the world. And so I had kind of the sample size dream, but I wasn't sure. Like I knew I didn't want to just go for 5 days. Like I knew I didn't want to just go for 2 weeks. There were things I wanted to do that just would take more time. And this felt like the way to achieve that goal and do it before or if I ever was able to retire in my 60s. And so I think it was just that I had these goals, I had these dreams, and this seemed like the most realistic way of accomplishing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I was reading the book, I was like, I want to take a mini retirement. But you know what's funny? What came up for me, and I mean, maybe this is something you help, because I know you're a coach for people to take mini retirements, from what I understand. Please tell me if I get that wrong, by the way, but I'm pretty sure that's correct.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, good. So I was thinking like, oh, a mini retirement but would be nice. But that means that I have to work one more year
Mm,
to reach full financial independence.
yeah.
And I was like, am I willing to do that? Because, and I know like people are like, well, I mean, what's the difference if you take the year now and then just work a little longer and then you have one less year? I don't know. For some reason, I want to be done and
Yeah.
just done. Like
Yeah.
and I think I worry about taking a mini retirement and then not wanting to go back but then having to go back
Mm,
because I'm not financially independent yet. And then it'll feel even worse to go back because like the momentum is no longer there. You know, when you're already in
mm,
it, when you're already kind of chained to your desk, you know, it's easier to stay. But I feel like if I took a mini retirement, I would not want to go back. And I know that's probably the wrong way to think about it, but I'm wondering if you have, I doubt I'm the only person who thinks that way.
It's really
So
common.
I'm wondering if you have any advice. Yeah, that's what I
And
thought.
particularly in the FI community, because there is this very specific end goal. There's this specific moment in time where we go from not being FI to being FI. And so there's a temptation of like, I'll just keep pushing, and I'll get there faster. But there's a number of reasons why I think it's a little bit of a fallacy. One, like we talked about the seasons of life. I don't know. Well, what do you predict? How many years out are you from FI?
I'm pretty sure we're between 5 and 7
Mm,
of like barista-fi. So I'm
okay.
totally down with part-time work, you know,
Yeah.
super casual, easy work. It's the corporate world that
Mhm.
feels like soul sucking.
Yeah.
But yeah, 5 to 7 years, I would think.
So, and being on like a fertility journey, there are things that fit into this season of like newly married, no babies yet, no kids yet, because you're hopefully about to enter a long kid season, a 20-year kid season. And there's things that you can enjoy now that would, not that you can't do them in the future, but they would just look very different. And so just it doesn't have to be a year, taking a month to do an epic adventure, knowing that like next time we do this, we're going to be 20 years older. And we might do the exact same thing, but experience it very differently. And then if you have a baby, there's going to be moments where, like, I remember taking my kids to 10 national parks in over 10 weeks in a pop up camper. And my youngest at the time was maybe 2 years old. And like they were just all itsy bitsy. And it was such a vibe. I mean, it was like goldfish snacks and strollers and sunscreen and hats and like baby backpacks and missing nap times. And it's too hot and it's too cold and people are crying. And it's just like, I look back at those pictures and it almost makes me want to cry because we're never doing that again. Like we can't ever go back. And so if you think about mini retirements, like just a month to encapsulate this moment in time and a month to encapsulate that next moment of time. And then, you know, when you get to, let's say 45 and you're like, if you look back and maybe you've done four of those month things and you look back at those pictures and they almost make you cry because they're so precious and they're so meaningful. And if you could trade at that moment, if you think about your 46-year-old self and you say, do I want to forget all of those? Do I want to have my memory erased for not just me, but for also my spouse and for my kids? If it means that I can quit now, or am I willing to work another 6 months? And try to imagine what that 46-year-old self would say. Like, try to be emotionally present in that moment. And that's not a choice I can make for someone else. It's a choice that, you know, they have to decide which one's more valuable, which one's more important.
Yeah, I was just thinking to myself, like, for some reason, I was thinking mini retirements means a year. And I know you say, like, you can take a month. Like,
Yeah.
and I was like, a year, 6 months. If I did that at my current job, I would have to leave. Like,
Yeah.
I know how they are. I just know they're a startup. Like, they need people. And so and I will say that season of our life before kids is very short. It's about 6 months because the way we're doing the fertility now, we can predict when the pregnancy is probably going to start.
Yeah.
And it'll probably start December, January. And so, which this is coming out in November. So y'all keep your fingers crossed. It's that season. And I've got like a trip to Egypt planned. That's 2 weeks long, right? And work let me take that 2 weeks. And they do have the unlimited time off. And so, and I take like 2 weeks, 1 week. Like I think I took off like this year 8 weeks. So I think that's the other thing is I'm very spoiled in my PTO. Now I can't take 4 weeks off at a time, but I can take quite a bit. Like they just don't track it because it's unlimited. And my boss is pretty like, as long as you get your job done, like I'm good. I will never, he said, I will never not approve PTO. And I was like, all right, I'm going to Africa for 6 weeks. Bye. So I wonder if that's also like, okay, the month doesn't feel like I could do a month, right? But what can you do in a month? What I'm trying to say is there's so many blockers in my head. And I'm like, how do you get around these blockers? Like, is it just, I need to go to therapy more and just talk to my therapist about this very specific thing? Or do I hire you as my like coach/therapist? Like talk through these things? Like, yeah, I just wondered if you had any general advice to like kind of put those thoughts aside.
One of the tools that I use is it's easy to like, for these concerns to feel a little bit like a thick fog. Like it's not very tangible. It's just their feelings, their ideas, their thoughts that are kind of free floating out there. And once your mind almost starts to problem solve one, another one pops up and you kind of get distracted and your attention pulls to, okay, so maybe that one's resolved. But what about this other thing? And what about this other thing? And so I encourage people, like, we have to crystallize exactly what the fear is, exactly what the challenge is, exactly what the mindset is. Be very specific and write it down, because our minds are really good. If we're hyper specific and we open that loop, it will start to self-correct. It'll start to find solutions. It'll start to find maybe a more helpful mindset of, if you said, oh, I don't know how my boss would feel about like if I took 2 weeks is fine, but I don't know if they would feel about if I took 3 weeks. But if you write that down and you go, well, how would they feel if I took 3 weeks? Well, okay, maybe they'd be a little annoyed, but what could I do? I wonder what I could do to like make that less of a burden on them. I wonder what I could do to make that like easier for my coworkers. I wonder if there's any compromises I can make that like I could still go enjoy that trip, but not let things like back up too much at work. And so once you start problem solving like the really specific things, instead of just like, oh, I don't know how they would feel. I mean, maybe, but what about the finances? And then you kind of like shift your focus before you fully resolve each challenge. So I encourage people, like, I think about like taking that fog and like condensing it to an ice cube, like make it very tangible and very specific and stick with it until you reach the conclusion. And there's times when like at the very tail end of this, if people are like, well, I'm just scared that I'm just scared. What if I just like lose my job and I can't find another job and I become homeless? And I'm like, okay, have you ever faced another situation that felt like that? And how did you handle it? And they'll go, well, yeah, actually, like I got laid off after college and like that was really scary and weird. And I had to like move back in with my parents and that kind of sucked. But then I found another job and like, I was like, okay, so if you figured it out once, do you think you can figure it out again? And is it survivable? Not ideal. Not every outcome has to be ideal. Is it palatable? And is it survivable? Is your worst case scenario, is the most disastrous outcome survivable? Is it something that maybe you could still figure it out and recover from? But yeah, that's my general advice, is to make it really specific and stick with it until you figure it out.
Yeah, that's a great idea. It's making me want your workbook, your really pretty workbook that you showed me before we started recording, so I could write some of this stuff down. I'm glad that we're talking through this because I feel like there's probably so much friction around the mini retirement
Mhm.
concept because it's just something that's so outside the realm of normal for
Yeah.
our culture of you have to be a productive member of society or you are worth less. Not
Mhm.
worthless, but worth less, right?
Yeah.
And especially as millennials, Gen X, even boomers, I feel like that generation was just told that you need to work and work and work and work and work. And that's where your value comes from. And so
Mhm.
when you think about taking breaks to, as you said in the earlier, being a writer is something that's just a luxury that only rich people can do.
Mhm.
I forget the word that you used, but it wasn't luxury. It was something else. But
Indulgent.
indulgent. Yes. Thank
Mhm.
you. It makes me think of chocolate. Yeah. Like many retirements feel like an indulgence
Mhm.
that is looked even, it's not even an indulgence. It's almost looked down on by
Mhm.
other people. Like being a writer is not being looked down. You're not going to be looked down on for being a writer, right? Even if you do it when you're poor, like people are gonna be like, oh, good for you. You're doing your passion, blah, blah. But if you take time off work
Mhm.
just to do something that's only pleasurable to you,
Yeah.
people are gonna be like, well, what are you giving back to society? Like,
Mhm.
that's not okay. And I think part of it too is that people are jealous as well. Like, there's a bit of jealousy. Like, they wish they could do it and they're mad that you're able to do it. Like, I think there's a little bit of that as well
Mhm.
in there. And so I can just hear all of those in my head when I think about it. And so I love that you're doing this coaching. And it made me wonder, like, what got you into mini retirement specifically as kind of your calling? Because you did the blog about mental health.
Mhm.
I didn't look up your first book. I'm so sorry. I don't know what your first book was on. But then you started your podcast on mini retirements and then this book on mini retirements. So
Mhm.
where did that like kind of story morph out of?
Yeah. So when I had this, I was on a year-long mini retirement. I was 32, and I had this jotted down, something to do with writing. And I'd already written about mental health, and I kind of felt like I had said everything I needed to say. It had served a really important function in my life. And I was trying to figure out what to write about next because I have lots of hobbies. I have lots of interests, lots of things that I enjoy. And I settled on personal finance for two reasons. One, I felt like that was the thing that gave me the most agency, it gave me the most freedom, it gave me the most confidence in my life was being good with money. I felt like it created the most amount of opportunity for me. It had the greatest potential impact to change the trajectory of someone's life. So I thought it was an important topic. But another big reason was we had had one kiddo at home. And then in the span of 2 years, we went to 5 kiddos at home. And so right before I started writing, we had just had a baby and I was breastfeeding, and I was going to moms groups, and all of my friends were moms, and everyone was like drowning in diapers, and it was just like strollers and car seats and diaper bags and Cheerios, and it was like such a vibe. And I didn't have anyone that I could talk to about this part of like my interests. Like no one else. I'd never had another friend that was a money nerd. And I felt so lonely in that. Like I felt honestly kind of delusional. There weren't podcasts yet, like, and there weren't a lot of blogs talking about money. It was just books. Like I'd read books and I had these imaginary author friends that like in my mind were secretly BFFs, which is like really funny now when like I get to meet them in real life. And I'm like, so you don't know, but like 18 years ago, we basically became friends.
Yeah, like I know you. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, let me just catch you up on our friendship. But I just wanted to talk about it and I wanted an outlet for that conversation, for all these thoughts, all these ideas. And because we had just become FI, I was grappling with like, okay, so now what does this mean? Now what does this look like? We had done kind of the step one. We had done the investing in the emergency fund and paid off the debt and created the passive income. We had done the rentals. But I had new questions, and we had done at that point maybe 6 mini retirements, somewhere in there, on our journey to FI, and they were very important. And I felt like they massively prepared me to retire early. Like they were a really great practice ground. So I started writing about those really early on, and I think my approach to the topic was different. One, because I never thought I would become FI, and that wasn't even the goal. Two, because like we never earned a ton of money. We had a crap ton of kids, and I had done all of these mini retirements along the journey. And I was just trying to figure out like, okay, and now what? And now what do we do? What does life look like? What does money look like? Because of what got me to that point, I knew that mindset wasn't going to take me where I wanted to go next. And my writing has always been just an honest extension of what I'm thinking about, what I'm grappling with, the conversations I'm having with friends, the books I'm reading, what I'm trying to sort in my mind. I have a newsletter. I've been writing this newsletter for like 8 years. And I joke that it's like one of the most unhinged newsletters on the internet. When do I send it? I don't know. Nobody knows. It's a surprise for all of us. What's it about? Nobody knows. Like, what's like the value add? I don't know. People open it, they read it, they seem to like it. We're all surprised. But yeah, that was writing for me. And I started this. I wasn't like, this will be an amazing business and this is my new career. It was a hobby. It was a passion project. And because I was already FI, I very much treated it like such. I know a lot of other podcasters, a lot of other authors who are diligent and they work hard, and I am not them. I barely show up. I'm shocked I've actually gotten anything done at all. Like this book is coming out and I'm like, oh my gosh, it takes like a lot of time to write a book. Did I actually do this? Like I show up for an hour a day and I do a couple things. And if you were to look at my schedule to determine what my profession is, you would probably think that I'm a gardener. Maybe you would think that I'm a walker or a tango dancer, or a scroller of threads. Hours per week. Those are probably my main professions, and this is way down on the list.
Yeah, my main profession is watching Netflix, and I am not ashamed. I'm not ashamed. I love it. I have my TV, it's right here. I love every single bit about it, and I don't care who knows it. Yeah, it's so funny that you say that because I love gardening, and you would think like at certain seasons, you would think that my main job is gardening. So like fall
Mhm.
and spring, like I'm
Mhm.
out in the dirt. I've got dirt on my under my
Oh
fingernails.
yeah.
I'm spending hundreds of dollars on plants that I have no idea where I'm going to put them because my garden's already bursting full of plants. And I'm like, this will fit in here. So
Yeah.
yeah. And then it grows in and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot that other plant that grows in later in the season is there. Oops. So there's like two plants. Anyway. So I love that you're saying that because yeah. But you have clients, right? You coach people on how
Mhm.
to do mini retirement. So that takes some time, right? So how much time are you spending doing that? How many clients do you have? Or do you even call them
It
clients?
depends on the
It seems very like
season. Like
professional.
there have been
Okay.
moments when, yeah, I've seen like 10 or 15 people a week and I was like, "Oh, look at me. I'm like showing up and I'm doing a thing." And then there's moments where it's like three people, like 3 hours a week. And group coaching's been amazing because I can show up 1 hour a week, which apparently is very much my jam. Like if 1 hour every Monday night, I'm there, we have fun. We talk about all these weird fears, all these weird challenges. We crystallize them, we problem solve them, we commiserate, and that I really enjoy. So, yeah, with the book, I'm trying to do like 10 hours a week. I'm trying to like, which feels like, gosh, it feels like I'm a professional. It feels like a real job, but I'm definitely going to take a mini retirement soon. So, like, if I dip out to like Costa Rica,
Yeah, I was like, don't the book's done. Yeah. Are you gonna do like a book tour or anything? Or you're like, no, I'm not. The book's written, that's it. They can deal with
I
it
don't
like
know. I
however they want to.
mean, I so the behind the scenes, I love like meeting people who enjoy my work. It is so fun because I work just entirely on my own. Like it's me and our mutual friend Casey, and I'm in my PJs and my kids are screaming and I do an hour a day and that's like so it's so cool when I get to see people like and hear their stories. And a lot of people find like parasocial relationships weird, like the whole like we've secretly been friends for 18 years and you just don't know it. They find that weird and off-putting. I love it so much because one, if they feel that way, they're probably right. We probably are best friends and we just don't know it yet. And I'm glad that they figured that out first and can just inform me. But two, that means I don't have to talk about myself. Like they already know all the things. And so I can just ask about them. And like half the work is already done, which feels lovely. An embarrassing percentage of my friends have just come through my work. Like if I have 100 friends, that's probably about correct. Other than my tango friends who don't know what I do, probably 97 of that 100 are through my work. People who are just like, yeah, we're probably friends. And I'm like, yeah, you're probably right. We are. So that's fun. Yeah. Being
I love
single has
that.
added a whole nother interesting dynamic to that vibe. I don't
Hmm.
exactly know how to navigate that, but yeah.
It's probably fun. So you're in Montana right now, right?
Yes.
Are you in like a bigger city? Like is there
I mean, it's Montana
nightlife for
big.
single people in their
Oh my
40s?
oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
What's
Oh my
Montana
god.
big? Is that like 100,000 people?
So the whole valley that I'm in is like 50. My town I think is like 30. So, yeah.
Is there a night scene there for single people?
It is absolutely perfect. It is like 100% my night scene. So I dance a lot of tango, but
Nice.
I really love
Uh-huh.
going to listen to live music. And they have that usually here at like
Yeah.
breweries or like fancy hotels do live music or wineries do live music. And it is 6 to 9 p.m. So I leave the house right after dinner because I like to eat dinner 5 like an old person. And then I am back home by 9:20 and I'm in my jams and I'm tucked into bed and I had like a fun-filled night. And that is 100% my scene. It is so nice. So yes, we have the
Yes,
perfect
you're
night
pretty.
scene.
Yes. Yes. That's your. I'm gonna move to Montana. Like you guys can't see this, but I'm literally dancing. Like, yes, that's my night scene. Honestly, if I can go out in my PJs and just land at home back, like still in my PJs, that'd be great. No, I'm so with you. I love that. That's so fun. Okay, so we are coming up on the end of our time, but there's a few other questions I want to ask you before I let you leave. I know we've been here a while. I told you I can talk forever with people, and there's so many more questions I want to ask you, but I want to be respectful of your time as well.
I do have dancing tonight.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah.
I'm learning the cha-cha. So
Ooh, fun. So this is totally a random tangent, but I used to do swing dancing in high school
nice.
and I loved it. And my step grandmother actually paid for lessons. So I was able to do just a one-on-one with the
Mm,
teacher. So I
mhm.
learned very quickly because I
Yep.
didn't have like a partner who had no idea what they were
Mhm.
doing. And if I could do something that was like outside the norm for an exercise, that's what I would do.
Yes.
I haven't even looked into it yet. Like I go to the gym, I do weightlifting and stuff, and I love weightlifting.
It's 100%. Wherever you are,
So, do
it's
you have to
there.
have a partner?
No, typically in social
Okay.
dancing, you just show up and like to group classes and you
Sweet.
partner up with whoever's there. If there's not an even ratio of like leads and follows, like leads are typically men, follows are typically women. A lot of women, myself included, know how to lead. So they find a dance
Oh,
partner
okay.
and you usually rotate through dance partners because you learn a lot faster if you dance socially. It's a social dance. And so instead of just like learning one person's bad habits, you like get a diversity. It's like
You learn a lot of bad habits.
yes. Yeah, and it all evens out. But no, like swing, salsa, tango, there's communities in every town. Just Google it and your town's name, and there's like a dance studio, and they probably have classes on
Oh,
Wednesday
yeah.
nights, and it's $15 and super fun. So
Yeah. I mean,
do
Durham
it again.
is definitely a big city. So, yeah, I'm gonna look into that because I've always wanted to be a dancer. Like,
Yeah.
I look at I saw a Cirque du Soleil show in Montreal recently for a work trip. I'm not gonna go into the details, but and I was looking at these women and what they could do with their bodies, and I was like, "God,
Mhm.
I wish I would've done dancing." Like, I'm so jealous of that. Now, I cannot do that. I can barely, like, sit in a cross-legged position without my ears coming like, my knees coming to my ears. So, like,
Yeah.
my hips are not there. So, I can't do that kinda dancing, but I'm like, "What is the kinda dancing I can do?" Oh, I love to swing. What if I, like, tried that again? What if I tried that during a mini retirement and, like,
Mhm.
did that? So, you're just inspiring me, Jillian. So and also we're friends now too. So you have 101 friends
Oh my
now.
gosh.
Yeah, yeah.
I was talking to Casey and I was like, the interview yesterday was really good. And I was like, so I don't know how like you get to the end of the interview and be like, so like this was really good. Like I feel like we have great chemistry. Like, should we like see each other again? Like, how do you do that platonically on a podcast? I don't know.
Hey, do you remember when you were like 8 years old though, and you would go up to like another kid and be like, "Hey, do you want to be friends? Let's just do that again." Like,
I
why
know.
not?
I'm definitely trying to
Jillian,
like be more
do you want
bold
to
in my
be
life.
friends?
I think we should, right?
I
Listeners
think we
out there,
should.
are you getting the vibe that like me and Megan could totally be
We're doing.
friends? I feel like we're halfway there. You know so much about me.
Yeah, do know a lot about you. Yeah, don't worry. Well, so Mitch actually did an interview. We just released the one where he interviewed me doing that. So if you want to listen to that one, then
Nice.
you'll be
We'll
even
get all
on
caught
even
up.
ground. So yeah, exactly. So anyway, I just like totally derailed us. I'm so sorry. But so the last few questions I wanted to ask you before we go are what are your current struggles and wins? And then if you could leave the audience with like a life hack recommendation or learning, and then we can call it a night and you can go tango.
Hmm. Well, tonight's cha-cha, but yes, there might be some
Go
tango.
learn how to cha cha. Yes.
Yeah. Current struggles, like I'm in a weird season, an unexpected season, in that like I'm coming out of a 22-year marriage and figuring out it's weird when your whole life deconstructs and then you get to reimagine it, which is exciting and joyful and exhilarating and like sometimes terrifying and sometimes overwhelming, but it's all of those things. And I think most days it's like really exciting and fun, but it has a lot of like a lot of financial pieces, but a lot of like all of this stuff, which I feel like I'm learning. It it's interesting to me because I think in personal development, for me at least, like there was kind of a steep learning curve initially, and then it's been like a very slow growth, especially for maybe the last like 8 years. Like I did the 1 month of intensive therapy in my 20s. Like there was massive growth before then. There was massive growth after then. It's been kind of slow and steady. And now I'm like, oh, we're doing massive growth again. Okay, this is fun. Like the roller coaster had gotten to the really boring part where like you get on and off and just like the click, click, click. And now I'm like, oh, but we're going to go again now. Yeah. So that's like, it's both. It's kind of, it's a struggle, but like in a good struggle, in a who am I outside of the context of a particular relationship? What about me? I got married when I was 19. What about that 18-year-old self is still true? But also, what are all of the new things that became true, but maybe I didn't fully express? So, yeah, it's very, I don't know, it's very exciting.
Yeah, for sure. And it sounds like now I haven't been through what you've been through, but it's also one of those things that I feel like it's okay that the person you were with for 22 years had an influence on who you were, and that's
Mm,
okay. And
yeah.
like you can still accept that's part of who you are while also moving into this person who's now no longer with that person, and now you get to develop as that person. And yeah, this I could see it as something that's a struggle, but also I think learning how to grow and having that massive growth, like you said, can also be seen as almost like a win. So, unless you have any other wins right
Oh,
now
other
besides that.
wins? Oh, other wins. Gosh, it feels like so many cool things, so many exciting things. Yeah. Honestly, adding tango to my life has been massive. Like I've talked about, I grew up in this really small town and everyone did social dancing. Like everyone's grandparents did social dancing, everyone's great grandparents did it. Like we had like community dances with all the old people who would come and dance. Like I would get to see everyone's parents dance. And I just always grew up assuming that I would do that. Like I just thought, well, of course this is going to be part of my life. Like it was all I had ever seen. And then it wasn't for my whole adult life. It just wasn't there. And so now at, 41, I guess, to add it back in has just felt like not only is it itself amazing and I love it just as much as I thought I would love it, but it gives you so you can just loop back around. It gives like this sense of possibility and this sense of wonder and this sense of awe of like, oh, those things that I thought, well, that passed me by, or maybe I'm too old for that now, or maybe like that I've moved on. I'm kind of going through the files and being like, well, let's re examine all of this. Some of it I've 100% moved on. Not sleeping on strange men's couches, not getting trampled by bison. I don't eat candy well, I try not to eat candy for breakfast. Like, there's a couple things that I'm like,
Oh,
the season has
yeah.
passed me
Why
by.
do we have to be so responsible? I don't want,
No.
I love eating candy for, yeah.
But a lot of other things, I'm like, why not? What if I could? Why not? And like I mentioned, if you have the chance to have a mental breakdown, like check that box. The other great thing is that if the thing you feared the most implodes your life, what is there left to fear? In some ways, I'm like, all the bad things are 2024, all the bad things happened. Every bad thing that I was ever scared would happen happened. And now I'm like, well, shoot, now we got all that out of the way. I guess I can just do whatever I want because the the fear's all been realized. And there's something bizarrely freeing and like it almost gives me more courage because not only has the fear resolved itself, but I also realized, and I'm doing great. Like the thing I thought would crush me, it didn't. Like it was hard. There were lots of hard things, but I'm still me. Like I was a happy person before. I'm a happy person now. I was a successful person before. I'm a successful person now. And I think there is a gift in your life imploding and you walking out the other side and going, huh, what else should I try now?
I don't know if you've ever listened to the singer Imogen Heap, but she has a song where the lyric is "There's beauty in the breakdown."
Yeah.
And she doesn't mean the breakdown of music. She means literally like breaking down
Mhm.
as a human being. And I mean, I remember listening to that when I was 19,
Mhm.
and it still resonates today, 20 years later. And oh my God, 19 was 20 years ago. Anyway, so I'm right there with you. I don't think I can say that I ever had a mental breakdown, but I've definitely had times where I decided to blow my life up because I wasn't
Mhm.
enjoying it. I was like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to move in with my mom. I'm going to change my career. I'm not going to live in New York anymore. Like I literally did that
Mhm.
in 2017. I was done. And it was because, I mean, it was all culminating. Like I loved New York the first 4 years I lived there, hated it the last seven. And it was all because of a neighborhood I moved to. It was a terrible neighborhood for me. Like it's a great neighborhood in general, but like I did not vibe with that neighborhood. And the straw that broke the camel's back was somebody in the neighborhood threw an egg and hit me in the face from like the sixth floor.
Oh,
And I don't even
no.
know if they were aiming for me, but it just in the crowd of people, it
Yeah.
hit me. And I was like,
Oh.
okay, I get it. Okay, I hear you. I will leave. Okay. Like
Oh.
whoever is telling me that, wherever you are, flying spaghetti monster, whoever's in control, like I'll leave. I'm sorry. I'll get out of New York. And, if I hadn't, I would have never met Chris. I would have never been able to realize my dream of owning a home that's 100 years old and a little cottage with a garden that I love. Like that was a dream forever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm so there for the breakdown.
Yeah.
I think there's beauty in the breakdown. So, yeah. Well, I think we can leave it there. I think that was a beautiful ending, unless there's anything else you'd like to say before we leave for the night, before you leave and go cha cha
Cha cha. Cha cha cha. I think
cha
it's a
cha
three-step cha cha
cha
cha.
cha cha.
I think my last encouragement about mini retirements is that before you do it, yeah, they're such a hassle. They're a hassle and they're a bummer and they're scary and they're stressful and there's like so much logistics and like it's just so much easier not to. It's so much easier to just keep everything the same. And I absolutely get that. And I still feel that a tiny bit. And after you do it in the rearview mirror, that hassle gets smaller and smaller and smaller to where you kind of forget it. I've had people totally gaslight me on my own podcast, people I've coached, people I know. And I'm like, so were there any challenges? Were you scared about anything? I totally know the answer to this question because I've got notes. I've got the receipts of all the things they were scared about, of all the challenges. And they will look me straight in the eye and be like, no, I think it was pretty easy to prepare for. And I'm like, liar, liar. You were so scared.
I'm sorry, I have a recording that literally shows you doing the opposite.
I have 2 pages of notes just on all the challenges. But they get smaller and smaller. And the meaningfulness, the value of those memories, the value of the growth that you experience, because it changes you and you come out changed. And the reason many retirements are life changing is that when you change, you can't show up the same because you're different. And so life has to be different. You move through life differently going forward, and that becomes more powerful. And so if you think about yourself in 10 years or 30 years or 50 years from now, like what would they say? What advice would they give you? All of these fears that you have, all of these fantastic reasons not to do this. What is their opinion on that? Because they're probably like, dude, get over yourself. It'll be fine. You will be fine. Like, figure it out, make the plan, have the conversation. Yes, it's an awkward conversation. I don't care. I'm 80. Like, but the good stuff just expands.
Yeah, absolutely. And, there is a quote in your book that I promised I would read, and I'm so glad you brought it back to the mini retirement so I can read it. But you said a mini retirement can give you a margin for magic.
Mm.
And I love that quote so much. It's so good. And I think it's so true. And you're making me want to really explore it. And I'm even sitting here thinking in my head, like, okay, so when could I take that? Could I take it this time? This time? Could I do it as part of the pregnancy? Because maybe I'll need it for, the first 3 months of my pregnancy. Maybe I'll be throwing my guts up and it might just be nice to take a rest. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm so glad I have this book, and I will let you know if I decide to plan one, and that will
Yay!
definitely go on my show. I'm going to tell people, like, I'm doing it, y'all. My guests are so inspiring.
We'll do a
So
podcast on my show and I'll say, so was there anything that was challenging or that you were scared about? And you'll be like, no,
yeah,
like we had this conversation
no, it
and I
was
was so jazzed
fun.
about it. And I'll be like,
No, you have the receipts here because I literally am recording a podcast where I'm talking about all the things that I'm afraid of. So no, yeah. No, I am one of those weirdos who like actually owns things. Like I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely said that. Yes, totally. And I was wrong. So well, Jillian, this was super fun. I really loved having you on. I'm sorry Mitch couldn't be here. He's on his own little mini retirement right now, having a great time. And, half the time he doesn't have internet. So he's so funny whenever we text each other. He's like, I'm so sorry that it took me an hour to get back to you. I didn't have internet. I'm like, Mitch, you do not have to get back to me right away. He's so nice. So, but it was really great having you on. And I'm so glad that I'm one of your 101 friends now. God, that's so many
no,
friends. That actually gave me a little bit of anxiety. It's
oh
like, I don't know
no.
if I can have that many friends. That's so many
I,
friends. 100 friends.
I
Yeah.
mean, I really like people, I think is part of it. And like, so I
Yeah.
don't, there's not like 100 people I text every single day, but we might have one conversation a year, or we might have two conversations a year, or we might hang out once a year. And like, I am just tickled pink. Like I'm in it to win it. Like I'm so excited to hear from them. I'm so excited to share my life. Like it's 100%, even if it's like in a small capacity. And that does not diminish how much I value them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. Yeah. So maybe I do have 100 friends. I'll have to go count. Well, yeah. So thank you so much for being on here. I'm literally really going to let you go now. I know I've said thank you several times, but I want to make sure you could go and cha cha. So yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to the EverydayFI podcast. If you're loving this show, here are some things you can do. Number 1, subscribe in your favorite podcast player and share the show with your friends and family. You can also find us on YouTube now. Some of the videos actually have our faces. Number 2, please leave a review. I am always looking for ways to improve the show. Number 3, check out my website, everyday-fi.com, where you can listen to all the episodes and leave comments for myself and the guest. Number 4, if you're interested in sharing your own financial independence story and connecting with other community members, you can find a submission form at everyday-fi.com/podcast. And lastly, number 5, join my Patreon membership for only $5 a month at patreon.com/everydayfi podcast. This is a one-woman show, so every little bit of support really helps. See you next time as we continue to go down the path to financial freedom.